Idla had made it all the way to the garden wall before she caught her. She had planned everything perfectly. The loose stone she'd discovered weeks ago, the servant's cloak to hide her wedding dress, the bag of coins she'd stolen from her father's study, enough to buy passage on a ship heading anywhere but here. She had almost been free. Then a hand closed around her wrist, and her world came crashing down. "Going somewhere, little Omega?" The voice was deep, amused, terrifying. Isla turned slowly, her heart hammering against her ribs, and found herself face to face with the Lycan king. He was enormous, nearly 7 feet of solid muscle, with shoulders that blocked out the moonlight. His hair was black as midnight, his jaw sharp as a blade, his presence so overwhelming that Isla's knees threatened to buckle. But it was his eyes that held her frozen, golden, burning, fixed on her with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. "Your Majesty." Her voice came out as a whisper. I wasn't. You weren't trying to climb over that wall and disappear into the night hours before our wedding?" He raised an eyebrow. "Because that's certainly what it looked like." Isla's throat closed. This was it. The end of everything. He would drag her back to her father, and she would be punished for her disobedience, and tomorrow she would be married to a monster against her will. Because that's what he was. Everyone knew it. The Lycan king was a creature of violence and blood, a beast who had slaughtered armies and conquered kingdoms. The marriage was a political alliance. Her pack's survival in exchange for her body, her freedom, her life. She had never been given a choice. "I'm sorry," she whispered. It was all she could think to say. The king studied her for a long moment. His grip on her wrist was firm, but not painful, a detail that confused her. "Why were you running?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "It's a simple question. Why were you running?" His golden eyes searched her face. "Most brides don't attempt to scale walls in the middle of the night. I'm curious what drove you to it." Isla's jaw tightened. What did he care? He was getting what he wanted, a political alliance, an Omega bride to cement his power. Her reasons didn't matter to him, but something in his expression made her answer honestly. "Because I don't want to marry a monster." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and damning. The king's expression didn't change. "A monster? Is that what they told you I am? Is it not true? You've killed thousands, conquered territories through blood and fire. You demanded me as part of a treaty like I was livestock to be traded." Her voice cracked. "My father didn't ask if I wanted this. No one asked. I'm just an Omega, the lowest rank, the least valuable. I exist to be given away." "And you think I see you that way? As livestock? How else would you see me?" The king was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, he released her wrist. Isla stared at him, uncomprehending. "Run," he said. "What?" "If that's what you want, if you truly believe I'm a monster who will destroy your life, then run." He stepped back, clearing her path to the wall. "I won't stop you." It had to be a trick, a test, some cruel game designed to break her before the wedding even began. "You're lying." "I've never lied in my 400 years of living. I don't intend to start now." His golden eyes held hers. "You have a choice, Isla. You can climb that wall and disappear. I'll tell your father you escaped, and he'll deal with the political fallout. You'll be free. And if I don't run? Then we talk, like two people who might be spending the rest of their lives together." He gestured toward a stone bench nearby. Your choice. Isla's mind raced. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to drag her back in chains, rage at her disobedience, prove every terrible thing she'd heard about him. Instead, he was giving her a choice. When had anyone ever given her a choice? She looked at the wall, at the freedom waiting on the other side, at the life she could build far away from pacts and politics and arranged marriages. Then she looked at the king, at his patient expression, at the way he stood perfectly still, making himself as unthreatening as a man his size could be. Why? She asked. Why would you let me go? The treaty specified a bride from your pack. It didn't specify a willing one. Something flickered in his golden eyes. But I don't want an unwilling bride. I don't want someone who looks at me with terror every day for the rest of eternity. If you can't see me as anything but a monster, then you should go. You'd let the treaty fail? Risk war with my pack? I'd rather have war than a mate who hates me. Mate. The word sent a shiver down her spine. Is that what I am to you? Your mate? I don't know yet. His honesty was disarming. The bond doesn't always announce itself immediately, but I felt something when I first saw you tonight. Something I've never felt in 4 centuries. He paused. I'd like the chance to find out what it means, but not at the cost of your freedom. Isla's head spun. Everything she had believed about this man, about this marriage, about her future, it was all shifting beneath her feet. If I stay, she said slowly, if I agree to talk, what happens? We postpone the wedding, take time to know each other. If, after that time, you still want to leave, he spread his hands, then you leave, with my blessing and enough gold to start a new life. And if I don't want to leave, then we marry, as partners, as equals. His voice softened. Not as master and property, never that. Isla looked at the wall one last time, at the escape she had dreamed of for weeks. Then she sat down on the stone bench. Talk, she said. Convince me you're not a monster. Something shifted in the king's expression, something that looked almost like hope. My name is Fenris, he said, settling onto the bench beside her. And I think this is the beginning of a very interesting conversation. Isla sat in the moonlit garden with the Lycan king, her wedding dress trailing in the dirt, her escape plan abandoned at her feet. She had tried to flee. He had caught her. And somehow, impossibly, she was starting to think that might be the best thing that had ever happened to her. They talked until the moon began to set. Fenris told her about his kingdom, not the conquests and battles, but the schools he'd built, the orphanages he'd funded, the laws he'd enacted to protect the weakest members of his pack. He told her about his loneliness, 4 centuries of ruling alone, watching everyone he loved age and die while he remained unchanged. Isla told him about her life as an Omega, the lowest rank, the least valued, treated as a servant in her own pack, given the worst tasks, the smallest meals, the coldest rooms. She told him how her father had announced the betrothal without ever asking her opinion, how her mother had simply nodded and said it was an Omega's duty to be useful. Useful, Fenris repeated, his voice tight. They called you useful. It's better than what they usually call me, which is? Isla hesitated. Then, because he had been honest with her. Worthless, burden, waste of resources. Something dangerous flickered in Fenris's golden eyes. Your own pack said these things. Everyone says these things. It's what omegas are, the bottom of the hierarchy. We exist to serve. That's not what omegas are. His voice was fierce. That's what small-minded fools have decided omegas should be. In my kingdom, rank is about ability, not birth. Omegas hold positions of power, of influence. They're healers, scholars, advisors. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's law. He turned to face her fully. Is that the kind of monster you thought you were marrying? One who would treat you the way your pack has? Isla didn't know what to say. Everything she had believed was crumbling around her. I think, she said slowly, I may have been wrong about you. Does that mean you'll stay? Give this a chance? She looked at his face, fierce and ancient and impossibly gentle in the moonlight. Ask me again in the morning, she said, when I've had time to think. Fenris smiled, and it transformed his entire face. I'll ask you every morning for the rest of my life, if that's what it takes. Isla's heart stuttered in her chest. She had tried to flee her wedding. Now she was wondering if she might want to stay, after all. Isla stayed. Not because she had decided to marry him, not yet, but because she needed to know if the man she'd met in the moonlit garden was real, if his words were true, if everything she'd been told about the Lycan king was a lie. Fenris postponed the wedding, just as he'd promised. He told her father there had been a complication, that the bonding required more time. Her father had raged privately. She'd heard him through the walls, but he couldn't argue with the king. For the first time in her life, someone had power over her father, and that someone was using it to protect her. The days that followed were unlike anything Isla had experienced. Fenris didn't demand her time. He requested it. Every morning, a handwritten note would arrive at her chambers, asking if she would join him for breakfast, for a walk, for a tour of some part of his kingdom. She could refuse. She had refused twice, just to see what would happen. Nothing happened. He simply wished her a pleasant day and left her alone. It was disorienting and terrifying, and slowly, impossibly, wonderful. You're testing me, he said one afternoon. They were walking through the castle gardens, different from the one where she'd tried to escape, this one filled with flowers she'd never seen before. Is it working? That depends on what you're testing for. Isla considered the question. I'm testing whether you're real, whether this, she gestured between them, is some elaborate act designed to make me compliant. And your conclusion? I haven't reached one yet. She stopped beside a fountain, watching the water catch the sunlight. In my pack, kindness is always a transaction. People are nice when they want something. The moment you stop being useful, the niceness disappears. I don't want anything from you, Isla. Everyone wants something. Not everyone. Fenris moved to stand beside her, his massive frame casting a shadow over the fountain. I want you to be happy. I want you to feel safe. I want you to look at me without fear in your eyes. He paused. But I don't want those things from you. I want them for you. There's a difference. Isla turned to look at him. In the afternoon light, his golden eyes were almost amber, warm instead of fierce. Why? She asked. You don't know me. I'm just an Omega your council arranged for you to marry. You're not just anything. His voice sharpened. And my council didn't arrange this marriage. I did. What? The treaty required a bride from your pack. Your father offered your sisters first, the alphas, the betas. women of rank and status. Fenris shook his head. I refused them all. Isla's heart stuttered. I don't understand. I had scouts in your territory for months before the negotiations. I saw how your pack operated. Who held power, who was valued, who was... He hesitated, discarded. You saw me. I saw you. His voice softened. I saw you working twice as hard as anyone else for half the recognition. I saw you taking care of pups that weren't yours, feeding strays when you barely had enough for yourself. I saw you reading by candlelight when everyone else was asleep, hungry for knowledge no one thought you deserved. Tears burned in Isla's eyes. You were watching me. I was recognizing you. He turned to face her fully. I've lived 400 years, Isla. I've seen every kind of person. The cruel, the kind, the selfish, the selfless. And I've learned to recognize worth, real worth, when I see it. His hand rose slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her cheek. You have more worth in your smallest finger than your entire pack combined. They were too blind to see it. I'm not. A tear slipped down her cheek. Fenris caught it with his thumb. You asked me to convince you I'm not a monster, he said quietly. I don't know if I can. I've done monstrous things. I've killed. I've conquered. I've made choices that haunt me still. His eyes held hers. But I would never hurt you. I would never diminish you. I would never make you feel like you're less than extraordinary. Fenris, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to decide anything. I just needed you to know. His voice roughened. I chose you, Isla, not because you were offered, not because of politics or treaties or alliances. I chose you because you're the first person in 4 centuries who made me feel like maybe I don't have to be alone. Isla stared at him. This ancient, powerful king who had conquered kingdoms and commanded armies, and saw something she never expected. Vulnerability. He was afraid she would reject him, afraid she would run again, afraid that everything he'd shown her wouldn't be enough to overcome the stories she'd been told. She rose on her toes and kissed his cheek. It was a small gesture, barely a touch. But Fenris went utterly still, like she'd given him something precious beyond measure. I'm not ready to decide about the wedding, she said, but I'm ready to stop looking for escape routes. That's enough. His voice was hoarse. That's more than enough. They stood together by the fountain, not quite touching, but closer than they'd ever been. Isla had spent her whole life being told she was worthless, that she existed only to serve, that no one would ever choose her for anything except the tasks no one else wanted. And now, a king was standing before her, telling her she was extraordinary. She didn't know if she believed it yet, but she was starting to want to. That night, alone in her chambers, Isla allowed herself to think about the future. Not the future she'd been running from, the cold political marriage, the life of servitude in a new pack, but a different future, one where she was valued, respected, loved. Could she have that with Fenris? She thought about the way he looked at her, the way he listened when she spoke, the way he had given her choices when no one else ever had. She thought about the warmth that spread through her chest whenever he was near, the way her heart raced when their eyes met, the way she had started looking forward to his morning notes, his afternoon walks, his quiet presence. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was something that felt like the beginning of everything. Isla fell asleep with a smile on her face for the first time in years, and she didn't dream about running once. Over the following weeks, Isla discovered what it meant to be treated like a person instead of a possession. Fenris introduced her to his kingdom, not as his future bride, but as his honored guest. She met Omegas, who served on his council, who led his military hospitals, who taught in his universities. They looked at her with recognition, with understanding, with a warmth that said, "We know where you came from, and we know where you can go." "This is real," she said one evening, after attending a council meeting where 3 Omegas had argued policy with Alphas and won. "All of it. It's actually real." "Did you think I was lying?" "I thought it might be performance, something to make me comfortable before the trap closed." Fenris's expression flickered with pain. "I've given you no reason to trust me. I understand that." "You've given me nothing but reasons to trust you." Isla shook her head. "That's what makes it so hard. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the kindness to stop, for the real you to emerge. This is the real me." He moved closer, his presence warm and solid. "The battles, the conquests, those were necessities, survival. But this—" He gestured at the castle around them, at the kingdom beyond. "This is what I built with my survival. A place where worth isn't determined by birth, where everyone has a chance to become who they're meant to be." "Including me?" "Especially you." Isla looked at him, really looked, and for the first time she saw the man behind the crown, the loneliness, the hope, the desperate wanting for someone to see him as more than a legend or a monster. "I think I'm falling for you," she whispered. Fenris went very still. "You don't have to say it back. You don't have to feel the same. I just—" She laughed nervously. "I spent so long being afraid of you, and now I'm afraid of something else entirely." "What?" "That this is real, that you mean everything you've said, that I might actually get to have this life." Her voice cracked. "I've never had anything good that lasted, Fenris. Everything good gets taken away." He cupped her face in his hands, his touch achingly gentle. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, "and neither is this. Whatever we're building, it's real, it's lasting, and I will spend the rest of my very long life proving that to you." "Promise?" "I promise." She believed him, and that was the most terrifying, wonderful thing of all. 1 month after her failed escape, Isla realized she was in love. It hit her on a quiet evening in the library. Fenris was reading aloud to her, something he'd started doing when he discovered she loved stories, but had rarely been allowed books. His voice was deep and warm, wrapping around the words like velvet, and Isla found herself watching his face instead of listening. The way his brow furrowed at tense passages, the slight smile when something amused him, the way he glanced at her periodically, checking to make sure she was enjoying herself. "I love him." The realization struck her like lightning, not falling anymore. Fallen, completely, irrevocably, terrifyingly in love. "You've stopped listening," Fenris said, setting the book aside. "I was thinking." "About what?" "You. Us. The fact that I tried to run from the best thing that's ever happened to me." "About how wrong I was," she said instead. "About everything." Fenris tilted his head. "Everything?" "About you. About this marriage. About what my life could be." She rose from her chair and crossed to where he sat. "I spent so long believing I was worthless, that I deserved to be discarded, that the best I could hope for was survival. And now? Now I know I was wrong." She stood before him, her heart pounding. "You showed me what I could be, what I'm worth. You gave me choices when no one else would. You—" Her voice cracked. "You made me believe I could be loved." Fenris reached for her, pulling her down onto his lap with a gentleness that belied his strength. You can be loved, Isla. You are loved. By you? By me. He cupped her face, his golden eyes blazing. I've loved you since before I met you. Since my scouts first reported on the Omega, who worked herself to exhaustion caring for others. Since I watched you read forbidden books by candlelight, hungry for a world no one thought you deserved. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I loved you then. I love you now. I will love you for the rest of eternity. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. The words felt like freedom, like finally setting down a weight she'd carried her whole life. I love you, she repeated. I tried not to. I was so afraid. But I can't help it anymore. I love you, Fenris. He kissed her. It was their first real kiss, deep and claiming and full of all the words they hadn't said. Isla melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, her heart so full she thought it might burst. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Fenris pressed his forehead to hers. Marry me, he said. That was already the plan. No, I mean... He pulled back to look at her. Marry me because you want to, not because of treaties or politics or your father's demands. Marry me because you love me and I love you, and I can't imagine spending another day without you as my queen. Yes. The word came without hesitation. Yes, I'll marry you. Willingly. Happily. Forever. His smile was like the sun breaking through storm clouds. Forever, he agreed. He kissed her again, and Isla lost herself in the feeling of being wanted, chosen, loved. She had tried to flee this marriage. Now she couldn't imagine her life without it. The next morning, Isla woke in Fenris's arms for the first time. Nothing had happened beyond kissing. He had insisted on waiting until they were properly bonded, a gesture of respect that made her love him even more. But falling asleep, wrapped in his warmth, feeling his heartbeat against her back, had been the safest she'd ever felt. Good morning. His voice was rough with sleep, his arms tightening around her. Good morning. She turned to face him, marveling at the fact that she could, that she was allowed, that this was her life now. I keep expecting to wake up and find this was all a dream. It's not a dream. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. This is real. We're real. I know. I'm just not used to having good things. Then get used to it. He rolled her beneath him, bracing himself above her with a playful smile that transformed his fierce features. Because I plan to spend the rest of our lives giving you nothing but good things. Isla laughed, bright and free, the kind of laugh she hadn't known she was capable of. I love you, she said. I love you too. He kissed the tip of her nose. Now, we have a wedding to plan. Unless you want to wait longer. I've waited my whole life to feel like this. She pulled him down for a proper kiss. I don't want to wait another second. They spent the morning tangled together, talking and laughing and planning a future Isla had never dared to imagine. A future where she was valued, respected, where her rank didn't define her worth. A future where she was loved. By late afternoon, word had spread through the castle. The wedding was back on, not because of treaties or politics, but because the king and his bride had chosen each other. Isla received visitors all day, Omegas from Fenris's court welcoming her, servants who had grown fond of her during her stay, even a few alphas who offered grudging respect for the woman who had captured their king's heart. They're calling you the Queen of Choices, one of the Omega Council members told her. The woman who was given the chance to run and chose to stay. I almost didn't, Isla admitted. I almost climbed that wall and disappeared. But you didn't. You stayed. You gave him a chance. The woman smiled. That's what makes you extraordinary. Not your birth rank. Your heart. Isla thought about that long after the woman left. Her whole life, she had been defined by her rank. Omega. The lowest. The least. But here, in Fenris's kingdom, rank meant nothing. Worth was determined by actions, by character, by the choices you made. And Isla had made the most important choice of her life. She had chosen to stay. She had chosen to love. She had chosen herself. And that, she realized, was the most powerful thing she had ever done. That evening, a letter arrived from her father. Isla recognized the seal immediately, the silver wolf of her birth pack, pressed into crimson wax. Her hands trembled as she broke it open. Daughter, I have heard that the wedding has been rescheduled. I trust you understand the importance of this alliance and will conduct yourself accordingly. The king has been generous in his patience, but that patience has limits. Do not embarrass this family further. Remember your place. Your father. Isla read the letter twice. Then she walked to the fireplace and fed it to the flames. Bad news? She turned to find Fenris in the doorway, his expression concerned. My father, reminding me of my place. She watched the parchment curl and blacken. He doesn't know anything has changed. He still thinks I'm a pawn in his political game. Do you want me to write to him? Explain the situation? No. Isla shook her head. I don't want him to know anything until the wedding, until it's done, until I'm your queen, and he can't touch me anymore. Fenris crossed to her, his hands settling on her shoulders. He could never touch you again regardless. You're under my protection now. I know, but I want... She struggled for words. I want him to see. I want him to stand at our wedding and watch me become something he never thought I could be. I want him to know that the daughter he considered worthless is now more powerful than he'll ever be. That's not petty, if that's what you're worried about. Fenris turned her to face him. That's justice. That's showing him, and everyone like him, that worth isn't determined by birth rank, that the people they discard can rise higher than they ever imagined. You understand. I more than understand. I've spent 4 centuries building a kingdom on that principle. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Your father will attend our wedding. He'll watch you become queen. And he'll spend the rest of his life knowing that the daughter he threw away became the most powerful woman in the realm. Isla smiled, fierce and determined and full of hope. I can't wait. Fenris smiled back. Neither can I. The wedding was set for 1 week away, 7 days until Isla would stand before the realm and claim her future. 7 days until the Omega who had tried to flee became the queen who chose to stay. She had never looked forward to anything more. Her family arrived 3 days before the wedding. Isla watched from the window as their carriages rolled through the castle gates. Her father emerged first, dressed in his finest furs, his expression one of calculated politeness. Her mother followed, her face as cold and distant as Isla remembered. Then her sisters, 2 alphas and a beta, all of them beautiful and accomplished, and everything Isla had never been allowed to be. They looked around the castle courtyard like they owned it. Isla's stomach turned. You don't have to see them. Fenris appeared beside her, his hand settling on the small of her back. I can have them housed in the guest wing. Keep them away from you until the ceremony. No. Isla straightened her spine. I need to face them. I need them to see who I've become. Then I'm coming with you. Fenris, this isn't negotiable. His voice was gentle but firm. You're not facing them alone. Not ever again. They descended to the great hall together. Her family was already waiting, arranged in a perfect tableau of aristocratic grace. When Isla entered on Fenris's arm, her mother's eyes widened. Her sisters exchanged glances. Her father's expression flickered with something that might have been surprise. She wasn't the cowering Omega they remembered. She was dressed in silk and velvet, her hair swept up, a silver circlet on her brow marking her as the future queen. She walked with her head high and her shoulders back, Fenris's presence solid and warm beside her. Father. Her voice was steady. Mother. Sisters. Welcome to my home. The words hung in the air. Her home, not theirs. Not a place where she was a guest or a burden. Hers. Isla. Her father recovered first, his politician's smile sliding into place. You look well. I am well. Better than I've ever been. We were concerned, of course, when the wedding was delayed. His eyes flicked to Fenris. We worried there might be problems. No problems. Just two people taking time to know each other. Isla smiled, and it wasn't a kind expression. You remember what that's like, don't you, Father? Getting to know someone before committing your life to them? Her father's smile tightened. Her mother's face went pale. They had never gotten to know each other. Their marriage had been arranged just like Isla's was supposed to be. A cold political union with no love, no choice, no consideration for the people involved. The important thing is that the alliance is proceeding, her mother said smoothly. That's what matters. Actually, the alliance isn't proceeding. Fenris spoke for the first time, his voice casual. The treaty has been dissolved. Silence. What? Her father's composure cracked. That's impossible. The terms were agreed. The terms specified a bride. They didn't specify a political hostage. Fenris's arm tightened around Isla's waist. Isla and I are marrying because we choose to, not because of treaties or obligations or your pack's desperate need for protection. But the alliance will continue, because Isla has asked me to protect her former pack, and I would deny her nothing. Fenris smiled, all teeth. But let's be clear, I'm doing this for her, not for you. And the moment she decides she no longer cares about your welfare, that protection ends. Her father's face had gone the color of old parchment. Her mother looked like she might faint. Her sisters stood frozen. Their earlier smugness evaporated. You can't, her father started. I can do whatever I want. Fenris's voice dropped to a growl. I'm a king, and you are a minor lord who sold his daughter like property and is now realizing that property has become more powerful than you'll ever be. Isla! Her mother turned to her, desperation cracking through her composure. Isla, please. You can't let him speak to us this way. We're your family. Are you? Isla stepped forward, and something in her expression made her mother take a step back. Family doesn't treat people the way you treated me. Family doesn't call their daughter worthless. Family doesn't give her the worst room, the smallest meals, the hardest tasks while her sisters live in luxury. We did what was best for the pack. You did what was convenient for you. Isla's voice cracked like a whip. You told me I was nothing. You told me I existed only to serve. You told me no one would ever want me, that I should be grateful for any scrap of attention I received. Tears burned in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not in front of them. Not any more. And then Fenris found me, and he showed me what I'm actually worth. He gave me choices when you gave me orders. He asked what I wanted when you told me what I'd accept. She lifted her chin. He loves me. Actually loves me. And I love him. Can you even understand what that means? Her mother couldn't meet her eyes. I thought not. Isla turned to Fenris, drawing strength from his presence. I'm done here. They can stay for the wedding. But after that, I don't want to see them again. As you wish. Fenris looked at her family with barely concealed contempt. You heard your daughter, your future queen. I suggest you remember your place during the ceremony, and I suggest you leave immediately after. He led Isla out of the great hall, leaving her family standing in stunned silence behind them. The moment they were alone, Isla collapsed against his chest. That was... She laughed shakily. I can't believe I did that. You were magnificent. Fenris held her tight. Every word was deserved. They needed to hear it. I've wanted to say those things my whole life. I just never had the power to. You have power now. He tilted her chin up, meeting her eyes. You'll always have power now. As my queen, as my mate, as yourself. No one will ever make you feel small again. Promise? I promise. He kissed her forehead. 2 more days until you're officially mine. Can you wait that long? Isla smiled through her tears. I've waited my whole life for this. 2 more days is nothing. She meant every word. 2 more days until the Omega who had tried to flee became the queen who chose to stay. 2 more days until she showed the entire world what she was worth. She couldn't wait. That night, her eldest sister came to her chambers. Isla almost didn't let her in. But something in Lyra's expression, uncertain, almost vulnerable, made her pause. What do you want? To apologize. Lyra stepped inside, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. I know it's not enough. I know nothing I say can undo years of what we did to you. But I need you to know that I see it now. What we were. What we did. Isla studied her sister. The golden child. The alpha heir. The one who had always had everything Isla was denied. Why now? Because I'm about to be queen and you're afraid? Yes. The honesty was startling. I'm afraid. We all are. But that's not the only reason. Lyra's voice cracked. I watched you in that hall today. The way you stood up to father. The way you spoke. You were... She shook her head. You were stronger than I've ever been. Stronger than any of us. I learned strength because I had to. Because no one else was going to protect me. I know. And I'm sorry I wasn't the sister you deserved. Tears glistened in Lyra's eyes. I could have defended you. I could have spoken up. I was an alpha. I had power. I had standing. And I did nothing. Isla was quiet for a long moment. You're right, she said finally. You did nothing. And I can't forget that. I can't pretend it didn't happen. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking... Lyra swallowed. I'm asking if there's any chance we could start over. Not as the sisters we were, but as something new. Something better. Isla thought about it. Really thought. A month ago she would have refused. Would have turned Lyra away with bitter words and slammed the door behind her. But she wasn't the same person she had been a month ago. Fenris had taught her that forgiveness wasn't weakness, that moving forward didn't mean forgetting the past. I can't promise anything. Isla said slowly. But I can try. If you're willing to actually try too. Lyra nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I am. I will. Thank you, Isla. She left without another word. Isla stood alone in her chambers, processing what had just happened. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was something. A crack in the wall she'd built around herself. Maybe, she thought, this was what healing looked like. Not forgetting the pain, but choosing to move past it. Choosing hope over bitterness. Choosing to become someone new. She climbed into bed with a heart that felt lighter than it had in years. 2 more days until she became queen. 2 more days until her new life truly began. The wedding took place at sunset, when the sky blazed with gold and crimson. The great hall had been transformed. Thousands of candles floated in crystal bowls. White flowers cascaded from every arch and pillar. The entire Lycan kingdom had gathered, alphas and betas and omegas alike, standing together as equals, waiting to witness history. An omega becoming queen. The woman who had tried to flee, becoming the woman who chose to stay. Isla stood at the entrance, her heart pounding beneath her ribs. Her gown was silver and white, fitted to her frame like it had been made from moonlight. Her hair was loose, threaded with tiny diamonds that caught the candlelight like stars. She wore no veil. She wanted to see everything, wanted the world to see her face as she claimed her future. The doors swung open. She walked down the aisle alone. It had been her choice. No father to give her away. She was not property to be transferred. No attendants to hold her train. She needed no one to support her anymore. She walked alone because she had earned it, because she had survived, because she wanted every person in that hall to know that she was choosing this of her own free will. Her family watched from the front row. Her father's face was pale, his hands clenched at his sides. Her mother stared straight ahead, refusing to meet her eyes. Her sisters sat in careful silence, except for Lyra, who offered a small, tentative smile. Isla didn't acknowledge any of them. Her eyes were fixed on Fenris. He waited at the altar, dressed in black and silver, his golden eyes blazing with love. When she reached him, he took her hands, and she felt the tremor in his grip. The Lycan king, ancient and powerful, feared across the realm, trembling for her. "You're shaking," she whispered. "I've waited 400 years for this moment." His voice was rough. "I'm allowed to shake." The elder stepped forward, her white hair gleaming in the candlelight. "We gather tonight to witness a bonding," she announced. "The joining of 2 souls who chose each other against all expectation. The creation of a partnership built not on treaty or obligation, but on love freely given and received." She turned to Fenris. "Fenris, king of the Lycan territories, do you claim this woman as your mate, your equal, your queen?" "I do." His voice rang clear through the hall. "I claim her with every breath in my body. I will love her, protect her, and honor her for the rest of eternity." The elder turned to Isla. "Isla, daughter of the Silver Wolf Pack, Omega by birth and queen by choice, do you accept this claim? Do you bind yourself to this man freely, without coercion or fear?" Isla thought about the wall she had tried to climb, the life she had tried to escape, the future she had been so certain would destroy her. Then she thought about Fenris, the choice he had given her, the love he had shown her, the person she had become in his arms. "I do," she said, her voice strong and clear. "I accept him with my whole heart. I will stand beside him, support him, and love him for as long as I live." "Then let the bond be sealed." Fenris produced the silver blade. Isla held out her palm without hesitation. The cut was shallow, barely a sting. When their hands clasped together, blood meeting blood, Isla felt the bond snap fully into place. It was overwhelming. Fenris's love flooded through her, fierce and protective and all-consuming. His joy, so bright it nearly blinded her. His relief, 4 centuries of loneliness finally ending in this single perfect moment. And beneath it all, a sense of rightness, of completion, of 2 souls finally finding home. "By blood and moonlight," the elder declared, "by choice and covenant, these 2 are bound. What fate has joined, let no force sunder." The crowd erupted. Howls rose into the evening sky, wild, joyous, primal. Lycans of every rank celebrated together, united in their joy for their king and his chosen queen. Fenris pulled Isla into his arms and kissed her deeply, thoroughly, in front of everyone. She melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, her heart so full she thought it might burst. "My queen," he murmured against her lips. "My mate, my choice." "My king," she whispered back. "My love, my home." When they finally broke apart, Fenris raised their joined hands high. "Your queen?" he roared. "Bow to her as you bow to me." As one, the entire assembly dropped to their knees. Alphas and betas and omegas, warriors and servants and nobles, her family, forced to kneel before the daughter they had deemed worthless. Isla looked at her father's bowed head and felt nothing but peace. He couldn't hurt her anymore. None of them could. She was queen now, and she had earned it, not through birth rank or political maneuvering, but through her own strength, her own choices, her own worth. The celebration lasted until dawn. There was feasting and dancing and more joy than Isla had ever witnessed. Omegas approached her all night, telling her that her story had given them hope, that seeing one of their own crowned queen meant everything, that she had changed what was possible. Through it all, Fenris never left her side. "How do you feel?" he asked as the sky began to lighten. "Like I'm dreaming." She leaned against him, exhausted and elated. "Like I'm going to wake up back in my father's house, still the worthless Omega no one wanted." "You were never worthless." He tilted her chin up, meeting her eyes. "You were always extraordinary. The world just needed time to see it." "You saw it first." "I saw it because I was looking." He kissed her forehead. "And I'm going to spend the rest of eternity making sure everyone else sees it too." 1 year later, Isla stood in the garden where she had once tried to escape. The wall was still there, the loose stone, the handholds she had mapped so carefully. But it looked different now, smaller, less like an escape route, and more like a reminder of how far she had come. Feeling nostalgic? She turned to find Fenris walking toward her, a gentle smile on his face. Grateful, actually. She reached for his hand. If I had made it over that wall, I never would have known what I was running toward. I thought I was running from a monster. I was actually running from the best thing that ever happened to me. You couldn't have known. No, but you gave me the chance to find out. She squeezed his hand. You gave me a choice when no one else ever had. That changed everything. Fenris pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. I have something to tell you, she said. Oh? I wasn't sure until this morning. The healer confirmed it. She looked up at him, her eyes shining. I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. Fenris went utterly still. A baby, he repeated. A family. Something I never thought I'd have. Something I never thought I deserved. She laughed, tears streaming down her face. We're going to be parents, Fenris. He kissed her like the world was ending and beginning at once. Then he dropped to his knees and pressed his forehead to her stomach, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I love you, he whispered against her belly. Both of you. I love you so much. Isla ran her fingers through his hair, overwhelmed by a happiness so vast it seemed impossible. She had tried to flee her wedding. He had caught her and given her a choice. And she had chosen him. Chosen love. Chosen herself. The Omega who had been told she was worthless. The Queen who had proven she was extraordinary. The mother who would teach her children that rank meant nothing. That worth was determined by the choices you made. And that sometimes the best thing that could happen was getting caught while trying to run. If you loved Isla and Fenris's story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. Drop a comment below telling me your favorite part. I read every single one. Until next time, stay wild.